It's time for review part 4 of Hearthstone's next expansion, Descent of Dragons. Last time we covered the warrior version of Galakrond and Kronk's Dragonhoof, an overpowered legendary Galakron synergy card. This time we get to see more super powerful cards, including one which breaks the rules on hand size limits. The reviews of 16 more Descent of Dragon cards are coming up.
Who's up for an adventure?
Before we get into the reviews, I'd like to review how we do card reviews on this channel. Rather than 5-star ratings for cards, we ask the 3 questions Hearthstone players really want to know. First, does the card fit into one of the current meta decks, Tier 1 through Tier 3 decks per HS Replay's tier list? So is it meta now? Second, will the card fit into a meta deck once the set comes out? Meaning, if it won't slot into a current deck, is it powerful enough to make a new meta deck viable, at least taking into account what has been revealed thus far? So, is it meta later? And third, and perhaps most importantly, does it inspire or enable crazy, experimental, or meme decks? So, is it meme deck worthy? Each card will get a yes or no to each of these questions. For those of you without much time, there is a time code in the description below to jump to for quick reviews. For everyone else, let's get into the detailed reviews. With all the fighting going on in Wyrmblight, it isn't surprising that a troll from nearby would also join the fight. The Zul'Drak Ritualist is a 4-mana 3/9 neutral minion with a battlecry that summons 3 random 1-cost minions for your opponent. This is an interesting card. At first glance, 3/9 in stats looks amazing, but if we assume the baseline is summoning your opponent 3 1/1s, it's just a decent card as it effectively becomes a 3/6. However, if just one of those has 2 attack, it ends up having the stats of a Sinjin's Shieldmaster as a 3/5 for 4, and that card sees no play in meta decks. There are a lot of 1-mana minion cards with more than 1 attack, so this has a high chance of backfiring if you're considering it for the stats. So is this card doomed to the abyss of unplayability? Well, due to this summoning 4 minions at once, it works well with Sea Giant and Mogu Fleshshaper, though they essentially become the same amount cheaper as the mana you just spent, since it is 4 mana for 4 minions. Mogu Fleshshaper would be able to clear one of the enemy 1-drops right away, but you would want to drop multiple Sea Giants at once to make this worth it in any other deck. Lastly, this does mess up the resurrection pool for Priest, as the random 1-drop minions will likely die before they can summon back the minions they want, so it's not a bad tech card if Res Priest is taking over the meta. That being said, while Evolve Shaman with Mogu Fleshshaper and Mutate would be best equipped to use this, and Zoo decks running Sea Giant could consider it, the downside outweighs the benefit for any of the current meta decks, and it will be hard-pressed to find a spot in the new meta either. As for meme usage, we can put this in our Gonk deck with Secure the Deck, and it will give us plenty of small targets to take down and charge up our attacks with Gonk. This will join our meme deck at least. Now we finally get to see what Sir Finley has been getting up to on the side. Sanctuary is the first Paladin side quest for 2 mana with the condition that you take no damage for a turn, and a reward that it summons a 3/6 minion with Taunt. With this, we get to see that there is one more deviation from quests for side quests. In addition to not being guaranteed to start in your hand, they can cost something other than 1 mana. When reading this card, the text makes me think it would be possible to take no damage on your turn, as it doesn't specify your opponent's turn. Another reading would be that you and your board cannot take damage for a turn. However, everyone reviewing this card appears to assume it means your hero must take no damage during your opponent's turn, and I haven't been able to find confirmation either way. We'll learn for certain once the set comes out, but we will review it under the assumption that it would be super powerful and 100% see play in meta decks now and later if it summons a taunt after taking no damage during your own following turn. So when looking at this with the mainstream assumptions, this would lean towards inclusion in an aggro deck, as it is easier to gain board control and reduce the chance of face damage. After it completes, it would be a nice 3/6 body to protect the rest of your aggressive board, so there's decent synergy. Against mages and hunters, they would have to weigh the merits of stopping you from summoning this taunt against using 2 mana on their hero power just to hit you in the face. If that's not already their game plan, it really slows down their development. This would be a bit harder to trigger in a control deck, as the opponent can usually hit your face with a leftover minion to keep it from completing. But again, they have to hit your face even when they might prefer to trade. In the current meta, Secret Paladin would consider running this, as if it triggers, it has amazing synergy with the secrets, and if your opponent is focused on keeping it from triggering, they would have difficulty clearing your board, which you can then buff to kill them. I think Secret Paladin would at least experiment with, and probably keep a copy of this in their deck. So yeah, meta now. And in the upcoming meta, underestimating the impact of splitting your opponent's focus between your face and your board for an aggressive deck would be a mistake. I'm certain this will find a home in an aggressive paladin, and we may see it in some other meta decks as well. If the taunt always appears at the beginning of your turn, it would be possible to play this out on turn 2, time out on turn 3, and Blessing of Kings on turn 4, giving you a 7-10 taunt, which could be copied with Faceless Manipulator on turn 5 if it still has a decent life total. It's an impressive curve of plays, but probably not consistent enough to see meta play. However, using this in a Sound the Bells massive minion buff deck, it could lead to some interesting plays. We'll go ahead and give this meme deck worthy status as an enabler for setting up peculiar plays. Now, who said kobolds can't fly? Rogues get a new 6-mana 4/4 legendary kobold, Flick Skyshiv. Her battlecry reads, destroy a minion and all copies of it, wherever they are. While weak stats as a 4/4 for 6 mana, her effect is better than the 5-mana Assassinate, but with a body. She's easier to use than Vilespine Slayer, as she doesn't have to be comboed out, and for 1 more mana, she gets +1 attack and a potential upside of deleting other copies in your opponent's hand and deck. You realize your opponent is playing Shrivala OTK Paladin? Well, if they mistakenly play Shrivala before the turn they can kill you, you delete their win condition. You're scared of your opponent's Zephyrus? Play yours and use Flick to terminate theirs before he gets played. Are the ever-prevalent Kartut defenders getting in your way? Destroy them all. Side note, Blizzard already fixed the bug associated with the literal reading of destroying copies, wherever they are, to remove copies from your collection and the game entirely. Please rest assured, Flick's activities are limited to the games she's played. But seriously, if this also deletes copies from the graveyard, meaning it can't be summoned back via resurrection mechanics, this card can keep Resurrection Priest in check by itself, though I fear that's not how it works. So, would Flick see play in the only current meta rogue deck, Tempo Rogue? Probably not. She can remove an annoying taunt or counter threat from the match, but at 6 mana she comes down too late, and the stats are too weak for a tempo deck. I don't think she makes the cut. However, with the ability to throw off so many other decks' game plans, and as efficient removal, she'll definitely find a deck, or many, that want to include her in the new meta. And have you ever wanted to delete every minion in your opponent's deck? Well, Rogue is the class that can grant that wish with Flick Skyshiv. With Shadow Step and Togwaggle Scheme, you can delete all your opponent's minions, if you survive long enough. Just be careful not to accidentally target another copy of her. Are you tired of burning cards when cycling through your deck quickly? Or are you having to make suboptimal plays to avoid burning combo cards in your Mogu Cultist Quest Warlock? Well, we've got the card for you. Ah, sales ads. The new 7-mana 4/4 legendary for Warlock is Valdris Felgorge, and his battlecry increases your maximum hand size to 12 and draws 4 cards. Mountain Giant can now be played for 1 mana, though you do have to wait until after playing this. It's like Sprint, but with a 4/4 body and a bigger hand size as a reward. Handlock is back with a vengeance, and Zoo decks might consider including this for card draw on a body, for games that run a little bit long. Would the current Zoo decks run this? It serves a similar role to Solarium, but takes up your entire turn and doesn't discard anything. I'm tempted to say it's too slow, but there's a decent curve to current Zoo builds, so I think some would run this. Valdris could join the current meta. And with the range of uses he has as a draw, handlock, and combo collection enabler, I'm certain he'll find his way into an upcoming meta deck. The real question is, how many different types of deck will he join in the new meta? And if there was a combo that was just too hard to pull off because it required gathering too many resources at once, well, Valdris Felgorge has you covered. He will definitely enable some meme combo decks. So is there anything new Warlocks can do with their newfound extra card holding dexterity? Yes, they can play this new 6-mana gnome, the Abyssal Summoner, a 2/2 with a battlecry which reads, summon a demon with taunt and stats equal to your hand size. You'll cry if you top deck her with no other cards left in your hand, but in a handlock deck, she can get real value. The Abyssal Destroyer she summons would be a 7/7 taunt if she's played with 7 other cards in hand, and with a full hand, he'll be a 9/9. If you've managed to play Valdris Felgorge from a moment ago and have a full hand, you could even summon an 11/11. Not bad for 6 mana. But most of the time, you're not going to have a completely full hand, so assuming she'll summon a 5/5 to a 7/7 taunt would be fair. And 6 mana for a 2/2 and a 5/5 to 7/7 with potential for more? That's not bad. However, with Zoo Warlock being the only current meta deck, she would not summon any Abyssals in the current meta. If Handlock has enough tools to make it in the new meta, then she's a nice reward for playing the archetype. Warlock has gotten several new control tools with Nether Breath and Crazed Netherwing, and paired with Valdris Felgorge, Handlock might have a chance. However, Nether Breath needs more dragons than Crazed Netherwing to be good, and there have been surprisingly few good neutral dragons revealed, so it seems unlikely Nether Breath will make it. Without more support, I don't know that Handlock will be able to compete in the upcoming meta, so I can't give Abyssal Summoner meta later either. But the Abyssal she summons is a demon, and in a Dragons and Demons, Ectomancy, and Jumbo Imp control Handlock, she'll provide some stall and potential targets to duplicate. Let the memes begin. In the expansion about dragons descending, I guess we shouldn't be surprised that some dragons can be hatched during the matches. Chromatic Egg is a 5-mana 0/3 with a battlecry that allows you to secretly discover a dragon that this will hatch into when it dies. It sounds as though the average dragon stats are around 7/7, though there have been a number of smaller dragons announced during this expansion. Still, for stats, there's a good chance you can find a decent-sized dragon when offered 3 choices. However, a lot of the power from most of the dragons is bundled into their battle cries, which this does not support. It's very expensive for an egg card, which requires at least one other card to be useful. If this were a 5-mana 0/5 instead of a 0/3, Combo Priest might consider running it as a buff target with an upside that can be activated by Topsy-Turvy. But with its current stats, the only current meta deck that could possibly include this would be Quest Paladin as a target to duplicate. However, they have far better synergy with Mechano Egg, and this would not make the cut. This doesn't synergize with the Holding a Dragon cards, and the base stats of the egg are too low, so it's extremely unlikely this can see play in any upcoming meta decks. But, as it is far too bad to play in meta decks, and there is a serious high roll potential, there are some fun egg decks we could make with this card. We'll definitely use this in an Anka, Necrium Vial, Necrium Blade deck. Let's hatch some memes. Next up is the non-dragon legendary for Mage, Chinvala. It's a 3-mana 2/5 elemental that summons a 5/5 elemental after you've cast 3 spells in a turn. It's not bad stats for 3 mana, but it requires a lot of other resources to get value out of this card. Normally a card like this would require 3 spells to be cast after playing it, but one experiment I'm curious to run with this card is if you play Elemental Evocation to discount this to 1 mana and play 2 spells after playing it, will that summon a 5/5? As you would have cast 3 spells in a turn. If it works like Dragon Soul, which has similar wording, they have to be cast after it's played. This would be much more powerful if the Elemental Evocation before this did count towards summoning an elemental, but it still has a lot of ways it can be activated. All of the meta mage decks at the moment have too few low-cost spells to trigger this effect from Chinvala, so it would not see play in the current meta decks. With Magic Trick, Ray of Frost, and Ancient Mysteries drawing and discounting a secret, there are still quite a few ways to benefit from Chinvala, Ancient Mysteries into Splitting Image may be the ultimate combination with this, but I was initially concerned we wouldn't be able to generate enough low-cost spells reliably. However, writing this a bit late, it seems we'll be getting a dragon card that will give us 2 one-cost spells from our class, so this can be pulled off much more reliably, and I'm going to say that this can see play in the new meta. As for the memes, what greater challenge is there than to see how many elementals you can summon on your board at once? There are several ways we can go about it, but yes, this will be in a meme deck. Also, if Mage Quest is still a meme, this will be happy to join that deck. And now we get to look at another absolutely overpowered card available for all classes, Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. She's a 9 mana 8/8 with a battlecry that if your deck has no duplicates, add 2 random dragons to your hand. They cost 0. The 2 dragons are random, but even if you low rolled and got 2 fairy dragons, you would get 14/12 in stats to drop for 9 mana. And that's the low roll. I believe she can discover herself, giving near infinite value, and the dragons are not limited to the class she's played in. So, for example, a druid could discover Calicos and play a spell on top of dropping Dragon Queen Alexstrasza and Calicos in the same turn. This card is going to lead to some serious highlights. With the absurd power level of this card, any Highlander deck that can afford to fit her in will fit her in. She's a slower Zul'Drak and an amazing complement to Zephyrus. Most of the current meta Highlander decks would run her, and there's no doubt she'll join the new meta. As for a meme deck, we can play this together with Togwaggle's scheme near the end of a game to flood the board with a set of dragons turn after turn. But you can't have duplicates in your deck, you say. You're right. So we play her when our hand and deck are nearly empty with Myra's Unstable Element in hand. And after shuffling a bunch of copies into our deck, we draw them all at once, removing all the duplicates. We could even have an Academic Espionage to throw into our deck afterwards to avoid fatigue, though that does introduce the possibility of duplicates back into our deck, so it should be used with that in mind. These are going to be some fun games. And aw, look at that cute little baby dragon. It's even drooling. Wait, is that molten fire it's drooling? Get it away. That is one brave dwarf. Anyways, Dragon Breeder is a dragon value generator as a 2 mana 2/3 with a battlecry to choose a friendly minion and add a copy of it to your hand. Decks playing any of the broken dragons from this set looking to get a little, or a lot, of extra value will run this. In the current meta, Malygos Quest Druid could potentially run Dragon Breeder for an extra Malygos, but it's not really necessary except in a matchup against a super armor heavy control warrior. However, both Highlander mages would run Dragon Breeder for an extra Calicos after drawing the first one discounted by Luna's Pocket Galaxy. An extra Alexstrasza wouldn't be terrible in a pinch if needed. As for the upcoming meta, yes, the Descent of Dragons expansion will have a dragon meta deck, or mini, that will want extra copies of dragons. Unquestionably. So remember our Dragon Queen Alexstrasza rogue deck we mentioned? This'll go in there, as well as just about every other dragon-centric meme deck we could build. Yep. Next up is the Fluffy Kibler Dragon. No, seriously, that's what it was called when it was leaked before Kibler's reveal video. The Japanese version of the card was released before the official reveal as Hametsu no Miko, which roughly translates to child or prince of ruin or destruction. However, the official version was revealed by Kibler recently to be Scion of Ruin. It's a 3 mana 3/2 with Rush and a battlecry that, if you've invoked twice, it will summon 2 copies of itself. As a 3 mana 3/2 with Rush, it's an okay removal minion, but when it is able to summon 2 copies of itself, that's 9/6 in rushing stats. If you can give this extra stats before playing it, with Galakron the Unbreakable's battlecry for example, it becomes even more terrifying. Definitely not nice and fluffy. As for whether this card would be meta now, no, it would require multiple invoke cards to be good, and Control Warrior wouldn't want to run Galakrond and lose several control tools for invoke cards. We haven't seen what Warrior's invoke cards are yet, but unless they are very good for control or aggro specifically, the current meta decks would not be able to slot this in, as it would only be a 3 mana 3/2. However, with an effect this good, and a belief that Blizzard wouldn't hamstring the entire Galakrond game plan by failing to make decent invoke cards, I'm gonna say that if even half decent invoke cards are printed, this will see play in some form of deck in the upcoming meta. As for meme decks, yes, we can and will play a rush and charge deck with this, Spirit of the Rhino, and Woodcutter's Axe. Bonus points if we can land Galakrond the Unbreakables and Arena Fanatics buff and a Nubasath Warbringer on it before playing it as well. Of course, Warrior isn't the only class getting more rush support. Hunters get the Diving Griffin, a 3 mana 4/1 with rush, and a battle cry to draw another rush minion from your deck. In a deck with 2 of these and Dire Frenzy, the first copy could draw the second copy, and the second could start the cycle of drawing the buffed copies. This also works particularly well to help complete the Clear the Way side quest. Midrange Hunter, which is sitting right at the bottom of Tier 3, would consider including this, as the deck already runs Dire Frenzy and has quite a few rush beasts. This would be meta now. And in the upcoming meta, together with the side quest and main Hunter quest, I think there are several deck types that would consider including this. It should be able to dive into the new meta as well. As for meme decks, rush minions don't get to Smork, but this can help cycle through our deck so that we can get to our Smork minions faster, complete the quest to buff our Smork minions, and sacrifice itself to remove those pesky taunts in the way of our Smorkage. And Smork decks are not the only meme decks this can help set up. So yes, we'll give Diving Griffin meme deck status. Next up is Transmogrifier, a 2 mana 2/3 neutral minion with the effect that after you draw a card, it transforms into a random legendary minion. This is a cool effect, but you have no control over what you'll be drawing and transforming into legendary minions unless you've already cycled through your entire deck. So if you hate all the cards in your deck and want to press the RNG button, this is the card for you. With the unreliable nature of this effect, this card does not get to join the current or future meta. The only way it could see play in the future meta would be as a tech card against Bomb Warrior or Hakar the Soul Flayer decks if they come back into popular play. Aside from that unlikely scenario, there's no way this joins the meta. But yes, we'll go ahead and put this in an Imp Balming, Augmented Elec, Plot Twist, Semi-Control Warlock, and see what chaos ensues. And perhaps we could do something with Myra's Unstable Element, Academic Espionage, and this? We'll see. Speaking of drawing cards, Warriors get Ankar. Arr. Because pirates. It's a 3 mana 2/3 legendary weapon which draws a pirate from your deck after your hero attacks. In the current versions of Warrior, no decks use any pirates, so this would not join the current meta. If we get some support for pirates, the Scourge of Pirate Warrior could make a comeback. However, there aren't all that many impressive pirates available to Warrior at the moment, so they would need a lot of support. It's weird that we would see this without any new pirates other than the pirate we'll talk about next, but based on what we've seen thus far, I can't call this meta later. But sure, even if no more new pirates are printed, we'll make a Pirate Synergy only meme deck to include this and herald the return of Pirate Warrior to Standard. Charge! And this is the only pirate which has been revealed for Descent of Dragons thus far, Kobold Stickyfinger. He's a 5 mana 4/4 neutral pirate with a battle cry to steal your opponent's weapon. It seems that it will not trigger weapon death rattles, and they will retain the remaining durability when stolen by Stickyfinger. So this is a good card to slow down death rattle shenanigans by rogues, and there was a hunter weapon just announced that we'll review later that this would be interesting to steal. However, is this better than Acidic Swamp Ooze or Harrison Jones? Unless there are a lot of weapons with powerful effects which other classes can use, it seems unlikely Stickyfinger will see much use. The only class that really uses pirates at the moment is Rogue, and this would not fit well into Tempo Rogue, so this would not see play in that deck. Weapons are not such a big issue at the moment that any other decks would consider putting this guy in. As for the upcoming meta, unless Captain Hooktusk Pirate Rogue makes a comeback, a bunch more powerful weapons are printed, or Pirate Warrior gets a bunch of support, Cobalt Sticky Finger won't be good enough to join the future meta either. And memes? So this could be used with Weapons Project or Plague of Madness to get the benefit, but steal the weapon from your opponent. But I'm not sure that that elevates it to meme status. Perhaps the fact that you're playing Plague of Madness at all is sufficient? Well, for that use, and the fact that this provides one more meh pirate for Angar Warrior, we'll give this a barely passing grade for memery. Now we get to see what the Breath card for Priests is. It's Breath of the Infinite, a 3-mana spell to deal 2 damage to all minions. If you're holding a dragon, it will only damage enemies. Mages used Volcanic Potion very much while it was in Standard, and that was the same effect as this, but without the potential upside with dragons. It's a very powerful AoE for a class that isn't really hurting for removal tools. With so many removal tools available at the moment, and no meta priest decks that use dragons, I don't think this would see play in current meta decks. However, Light Bomb will be leaving Standard soon, and there is an upside to this in a Dragon Synergy deck. The only dragon revealed thus far for priests is Fate Weaver, which they will want to run, and with Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, I imagine we will be able to see at least a partial Dragon Synergy deck rise into the meta. Even without a Dragon Synergy, this will probably see play. And together with Fate Weaver, this can serve to keep our Galakron the Unspeakable quest priest alive long enough to play Galakron before completing the quest, and potentially give us more targets to heal for completing the quest. It's not that vital, but sure, we'll include it in our meme deck. And today's last card is Dread Raven, a 3-mana 3/4 neutral beast that has +3 attack for each other Dread Raven you control. A 3-mana 3/4 isn't bad, and Dire Frenzy has some quality potential with this. It wouldn't be quite good enough to join the current mid-range Hunter deck lists, and none of the other current meta decks would be able to use this more effectively. A modified version of mid-range Hunter with Dire Frenzy could probably use this, but I'm not sure if a version using this could survive in the upcoming meta. I'm gonna have to say this doesn't make the cut. However, not only would a Dire Frenzy Scarlet Webweaver Hunting Party Hunter deck with this be fun, but Priest also has some fun ways to set up an interesting board. And Rogue, a Shadow of Death deck with Togwaggle Scheme just for good measure, could lead to a board with 7 of these staring down our opponent as 21 4s. So we'd be showing 147 damage from our minions. Now, a single Flame Strike and just about any other AoE would decimate it, but we'd have that special meme moment anyways. And that's all the cards we're covering this time. We're a little bit behind in making these reviews, so most likely all the rest of the cards from the set will have been revealed before we make the next script. Meaning, if we say something won't be meta later, we won't have an excuse that we haven't seen all the cards yet. We'll also want to go through those cards a bit faster, as I would like to at least touch on all the cards before the set comes out. So stay tuned for the next reviews. But for now, let's get into the quick reviews. Zul'Drak Ritualist doesn't summon anything in the current or future metas, but she can summon gonk memes. Sanctuary surprisingly rests securely within all 3 categories. While Flick Skyshiv wouldn't shiv her way into the current meta, she will assassinate many minions in the upcoming meta and meme decks. Valdris Felgorge draws the minions needed for the current meta, he expands the options available to Warlock in the upcoming meta, and meme decks will gorge on him. While Abyssal Summoner wouldn't even start her summon in the current meta, and her summoning skills are questionable for the upcoming meta, she can help summon much more Abyssals for meme decks. Chromatic Egg cannot hatch in the current or future metas, but will definitely incubate a meme deck or 2. Chinvala wouldn't join the current meta, but there may be enough support to magically trick its way into the new meta, and meme boards will be raided with this. Dragon Queen Alexstrasza brings life to every part of the game, including meme decks. Dragon Breeder can find work in all 3 categories, and I'd be happy to hug that cute little dragon, but only after he wipes away the molten drool. Fluffy Kibbler Dragon, Scion of Ruin, needs too much support to join current meta decks, but he should wreak some havoc in the new meta, and hopefully we can ruin some opponents with our meme buff and rush deck. Diving Griffin rushes its way into all three categories as well. Transmogrifier's services will not be requested for the current or future metas, but he might lead to an interesting plot twist in meme decks. Ankar doesn't have enough pirates to anchor itself into the current or future meta, but we can meme up some Pirate Warrior revival games. Cobalt Sticky Finger can't stick his fingers into the current or future metas, and we may be mad, but he just barely claws his way into a meme deck. Breath of the Infinite would not fit in current meta decks, but has nigh infinite potential in the new meta and meme decks. Dread Raven does not inspire dread in the current or future metas, but we will fill our board with 21 attack ravens one day soon. And that's a wrap. This is a subjective review, but I'm making some pretty direct predictions. Let me know in the comments below what you think, what you're looking forward to, and if you have any crazy meme deck ideas you'd like to see. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, and check back for future reviews coming soon. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep exploring.